Welcome back to my channel. I'm Marcus Andre, and sorry I've been off for like a week and a half, I think. This video has been highly requested by a lot of people moving from LA to Houston. If you watch my other videos, you know that I lived in Houston for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. I was just organizing one of my closets and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this video right now. So a lot of people are moving from LA to Houston, but I'm going to tell you now, it can be a move that is amazing, but you can also make this move and feel like you made the worst move ever. I have seen both sides and I've honestly felt both sides. Before you just go jump moving from California, and let's just say California in general, because all of California kind of has like this similar issues that I think people are experiencing, like loneliness, high cost of living, crime, just seeing the cities change and politics. People want to go somewhere else. Houston, for some reason, has just attracted a lot of people. I honestly think the big draw with Houston is just cost of living. I mean, I think that's like the majority of why it initially attracts people. And then you start checking off the list underneath that. First, let's just talk about the obvious. A lot of people are attracted to LA because LA appears to be beautiful. There's palm trees. It's sunny. But it's also smoggy, but it's sunny. There's mountains, there's mild, beautiful weather, there's beaches. Everybody pretty much knows that California is a beautiful state, almost to the point where it doesn't even look real. When you move to Houston, that's when it gets real. That's when you realize, okay, I did not move to Houston because I expected to look beautiful. If you're an aesthetic person like me, I'm a person that needs things to look a certain way. I like when things look beautiful. I'm very specific about the aesthetics and how things feel. The whole aesthetic of California is very hard to compete with that. The first thing that you have to realize about living in Houston is it is not a beautiful place. I'm sorry. Houston to me is one of the most unaesthetically pleasing cities that I've ever lived in. Here's the thing about Houston. It's a massive city and there's all these little pockets and neighborhoods that are very different from other neighborhoods. You can move into a master plan community and just live in this world, in this bubble that's very green, and there's lakes and there's pools and there's shops and there's stores, and it's very cookie cutter and it almost looks fake. And I'm talking specifically in these pockets outside of the city. If you want beauty, you have to go outside of the city and you have to live in these little pockets in these master plan communities. The other way to get Houston to look really good, if you want to wake up and just be pleased by your atmosphere every day, you have to live in a high rise. You have to move into the city in the Galleria or River Oaks or somewhere more central. And we're going to talk about the central thing because nothing in Houston is actually central. Move into a high rise where you could wake up with floor to ceiling windows and you see nothing but city views and sun, because Houston from the ground is super flat. It is very rough around the edges. The streets are very bumpy and potholes. It kind of reminds me of like New Orleans. Houston is a very rough around the edges kind of place. It looks like they could power wash it. Now, I just want to talk about money in Houston because a lot of people that are moving from LA are really trying to consider their finances. We live in a time where money is just, it's hard to keep it. People talk about how it's so hard to find jobs. They're not paying a lot. The cost of living is so high. Even if you get a job that's good, is it even solving a problem? I'm getting a job just to survive, but I'm not enjoying life. I do feel like Houston solves that problem. When I moved to Houston, I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a job and I'm going to get a remote job. And I'm also going to run my business from home because I wanted that cushion. My rent was very low, but I'm like, I just want to get up. When I started to apply for jobs in Houston, the amount of response that I got in Houston was next level. This is the first time I had options. When you compare it to like Florida, Atlanta, Charlotte, and maybe Tennessee, I just feel like Texas pays more. I feel like Texas has more jobs. They pay more. You can negotiate your salaries. I feel like it's more diverse in its type of jobs. And I feel like there's just a lot of movement happening in all of Texas, not even just Houston. And the great thing about it is you can get these opportunities, but you can keep your cost of living very low. Gas is cheaper, food is cheaper, rent is cheaper. Everything was significantly cheaper, but I was making more money. A part of living in California is just to say you live in California. A lot of living in California is to be like, oh, look at my weather. Look at the mountain in my backyard. Look at this palm tree. Where sometimes you might start to value other things. Like, I want my kids to be able to just run outside in my yard and play with other kids in the neighborhood and jump in the pool. And we want to have barbecues with our neighbors. Texas has that energy. And I feel like if you're trying to start a family, or if you have a family, if you have kids and you're married and you want that life that feels more like an American dream, you can get that in Texas, in the suburb. The thing about Houston that I think is better than LA, and this is for people that feel lonely in LA. I felt very lonely in LA. In Houston, I did not feel lonely at all. Even though all these neighborhoods are very different and separate, the neighborhood that you're in is such a southern, comforting, welcoming energy. I literally have lived in LA. I've lived in certain places for years and just have seen the same people over and over. And you just walk right past them and never say a word. One of the issues you're trying to solve is a community issue. You are going to solve that in Houston. You are definitely going to solve that in Houston. I feel like when you go to a place like Houston, the guards come down. There's nothing performative about it. It's just Texas. I'm just saying. You don't have to live up to anything. You just are. You're just being. If you want something to eat, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be cute. It could be a big ass slab of ribs with a bunch of barbecue sauce. Eat it. It's good. We love it here. Let's talk about the weather. We got to talk about this weather. I've heard people say the weather is not that bad in Houston. I think if you think that Houston weather is not that bad, you're insane, because the weather in Houston is the most diabolical thing I have ever experienced in my life. Houston's weather is so humid. The amount of sweat that comes pouring down your face as soon as you walk outside. If you're parked outside and your car is out there in that heat and you have leather seats, I drive a Mustang, have leather seats. When you get in your car, the way your seat is going to burn your legs, it's going to be so hot and humid. You are going to sweat every negative energy out of your body. The humidity is worse than New Orleans. It's worse than Atlanta. It's worse than Miami. It is the worst weather I have ever experienced in my life. I have met Africans in Houston. Houston has a huge African community. And let me just tell you, the Afro beats and the African clubs in Houston are next level. So I went to the club and I met an African, and he's like, I love Houston, but the weather here, this is worse than Africa. He's like, this is worse than Africa, and Africa is so hot. The good thing about Houston is that heat lasts between the end of July is when it gets crazy until September. It's still warm, but it'll start to slightly cool down around October. From October all the way until the next year, all the way until like June, it's great. It's going to be warm leading into the winter time, and then you might get that weird freeze. It can get very cold. It can get all the way down to like, I feel like there was times where it was like 35 degrees, and I'm like, why is it so cold? But that would only last for like 2 weeks. And then it would just kind of go like back and forth. Like you would get like overcast. It would be kind of gray. You have like a warm day here and there, and then you'll get a rainy, thunderstormy kind of day. Then you would get a cold day, but it was never as cold as in New York cold. What I don't like about Houston weather is how it's all over the place. It's like hot, humid, super sunny, super cloudy, cold, thunderstorm, tropical storm, maybe even a tornado. Now, Houston is a party city. Houston is for people that want to party. You can also live that life of being just in your little neighborhood with your kids. You can definitely do that and never experience any of what I'm talking about. You could be in your 20s, 30s, even your 40s. If you're in your 40s and you're still kind of outside, when you get to Houston, it's going to test your stamina. Houston is a turned up city. It is a place where people are partying. There's a saying, never leave Houston on a Sunday. You have to experience Sunday Fun Day in Houston. It is extreme. It goes from sun up to sun up because it goes until the next day. Houston is very intense. These people do not sit down in Houston. I don't know what's wrong with them. I slightly love it. It is definitely a place that is not boring. It is not boring for a person that likes to party. But LA has turned into, for me, it's a place to decompress, because I do think that LA has gotten a little boring over the years. So Houston, to me, isn't a place to explore in the way that you explore LA. Yes, you can go jet skiing on a lake, or you can go horseback riding, or you can drive to Galveston to the beach. It's not going to compare to any beach in LA. We already know that. But it doesn't feel like, you know what? If I'm by myself in Houston, let me just go out and explore. I never felt like I could do that. Houston is more of a car city than LA. It's hard to really fully explore the entire city without a car in LA. In Houston, it's even worse. Houston is a concrete, not even a jungle, it's a concrete parking lot. Even though LA is not the most walkable city, LA, you can kind of drive into your little pocket park and then walk. Like you can drive to Silver Lake and then walk through Silver Lake. You can drive to Santa Monica, walk through Santa Monica. I feel like in Houston, you could barely even do that. Houston is like drive in, parking lot, get out, and walk into the establishment. And if you want to go to the next one, you have to like come out. You might even have to hop on the highway, get off the highway, and park again. Like you cannot walk there. LA is like a little scavenger hunt. And if you have nothing to do at the end of the day, you can just kind of like pull up somewhere. You can go to the Grove in LA and just walk around the Grove. Beautiful weather, beautiful aesthetic, the breeze, the sun setting, and then just call people like, "Oh, I'm at the Grove. Oh, where are you going? Are you want to meet me in West Hollywood?" It's You can explore a little more. It's just like, okay, whatever. If that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. Where in Houston is like, we're going here. You need to get fully dressed. You need to have on cologne. There might be a dress code. Get in your car, drive here, park. There's going to be millions of cars. Get into this parking lot and walk into this establishment. But when you walk into the establishment, it's going to be beautiful. One thing I'll say about Houston is that I thought was interesting. Houston, geographically, flights aren't laying over in Houston because of where it is all the way down at the bottom of the Gulf. Now, if you're a person that likes to travel out of the country, you can get to like Cancun and Puerto Vallarta and Panama City and Belize. All of those flights are very affordable and they're quick. If you're going more north to like New York and stuff, those flights are a little bit more expensive than living in like an Atlanta. Now, if you're coming from LA, obviously we're talking about LA, it's probably going to be comparable because flying from LA to the East Coast can be long. It can be expensive. You kind of have to plan ahead. And I felt like in Houston, I had to plan ahead a little bit. I'm a person that just likes to get up and get out of where I'm at. And I felt like in Houston, I couldn't really just get out. Texas is so big and massive. You can't get in your car and just go drive to something that feels different. Texas is like the size of the entire East Coast. And going from city to city in a car, it almost feels like I'm still in Texas. Everywhere I went, I'm still in Texas. And I felt that way in California. When I wanted to get out of LA, I would go to San Diego or Palm Springs or San Francisco, but I'm still in California. And Texas to me has that same, I'm going to call it an issue because it was an issue for me. Houston has that same issue where getting out of Houston, you're on this long road through a bunch of flat land with nothing. There are no mountains. There are barely any trees. And you're just driving for hours and hours. And you go to the next city. And it's like, welcome back to Texas Part 2. I love a road trip, but I didn't want to drive to another part of Texas. I want to be able to drive out of the state. And that's what I love about living on the East Coast. Cities are back to back and there's so much to see in between. Like you don't ever feel like you're just in the middle of nowhere. You just feel like you're going from city to city to city, where in Texas, I feel like you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. I think that geography matters. And I think as you get older, you start to look for things that feel more familiar to where you're from. Houston, to me, personality wise, has a very energy that feels more like home because I'm used to people that are more extrovert and more outspoken and more talkative. We're like that in Jersey. We just talk. We just we're not very filtered people. And I feel like in Houston, they're not very filtered people. And I love that. I love the people there. I love how they are just, they're going to say it. They're going to mean it. They're going to do it. And it just is. This is for the black people. If you black and you live in LA and you have a business or you're trying to shift your career a little bit, socially, you're trying to just kind of fit in more. One thing about being black in LA, I've talked about this, LA is 8% black. A third of Houston is black. Houston is also a massive city with a lot of people. So you're going to see black people everywhere, and you see black people everywhere in LA. But I think that in Houston, if you're black, there are a lot more opportunities for Black people. There also are a lot more social scenes that are culturally aligned with Black people, and the job market, and just kind of like I remember working at a law firm in LA, and I was just the only Black person there. Nothing wrong with that. It was a good job. A lot of people there spoke Spanish, and I was just kind of just working. In Houston, there's every culture there. I don't know if people there are a little bit more Americanized. Maybe y'all can kind of tap in if you've been there. But I feel like every culture in Texas is just a little bit more Americanized than California. I feel like California cultures are more segregated. Even though you get all these people kind of doing different things, I noticed when we were all together in Houston, it felt like we were more on one accord. Just kind of navigating socially, professionally, in business, and as an entrepreneur with different cultures in Houston, I felt like not so disconnected from each other. And even if I wasn't connected to people completely, there was always somebody there that looked like me, and spoke like me and expressed themselves like me. My being in Texas felt more comfortable because the way people are just so open and so extrovert and so real. I didn't always feel that in LA. So navigating my life professionally in LA always felt like things were super performative, and I had to like say things a certain way and kind of be very strategic. I didn't feel like I had to be strategic in Houston. I feel like I could just be. And I actually talked about this in my LA versus Atlanta video. There was a level of excitement in people that I was not getting in LA that I got in Houston. And I just think that it's a cultural thing in Houston. No matter who you are, people are more expressive. They are more excited to talk to you. They are more excited to tell you where to go. They are more excited to put you on. It is just more fun. And I think that has a lot to do with being less stressful. It could be because things are cheaper. People are not in this rat race to just do something. They're just existing. You're also not in competition with a lot of people, because if you're like an influencer or you have a business in Houston, you're not really in competition with a lot of people, because in LA, everybody's trying to get on. In Houston, people are really already on. They work, they have families, they have a place to live, they have their car. Things are working for them. And if you show up with something to offer, like a business or an idea, it's not like you're going up against somebody else that has a similar idea or another idea, and there's like two egos going at each other. I always just felt like this is my business. This is what I do. And there was a lot of consumers, because people go to work and they spend money. So if you're a person that has something to offer or something to sell, they're going to buy it because they have money, they work, they're a consumer, and they're not trying to be who you are. They're not trying to break into Hollywood or become some famous comedian or actor or the next beauty guru or influencer. They just are there. And if you are one of those people, like an influencer, a guru, a beauty guru, you have a business, you're an entrepreneur, you can kind of stand out more. You might want to be around a bunch of entrepreneurs. For me, I don't need that. I already know what I want to do. I need a consumer because I want to make money. And I felt like in Houston, there's a lot of consumers. There's a lot of people buying what you're selling. If the negative things about Houston that I've mentioned are not really a big deal to you, if you are a person that kind of just already knows, like, I can deal with the weather, I want cheap rent, I can deal with the traffic, I already deal with traffic now, I just want to be able to have more gas in my car for longer and spend less on it, I want great food. It's very spread out, but at least in my community, I get a lot of community. Traveling outside of it might be far. It might feel like LA, where it's just like this big journey just to go from one place to the next. But at least in my pocket, it's so much community and it's so social. It feels good. And I want that. I would do it. I would definitely try Houston. That's all I got for you today. This video is a little all over the place. Sorry, but I literally just sat down and said I'm just going to record today. Okay, I need you to like, comment, subscribe. My Instagram is deactivated right now because I am sick of Instagram, but you can hit me up on TikTok. My TikTok is Marcus Millions _ I believe that's my TikTok. Let's see. Okay, my TikTok is Marcus Millions _ So you can DM me on TikTok. And I can answer any question you have, because I genuinely like answering questions about moving. I wish I had people that could be more specific and help me. I didn't have that. I would get on YouTube and find people like me that were talking about it. But sometimes I want to have those like more in-depth conversations. I don't mind having those conversations. I love to talk. I don't live in Houston right now. Would I go back to Houston and live there again? Um, I could live in Houston again. Now that I know the negatives and I know what I like about it, I could more strategically curate my life. I left because I just wasn't done exploring other cities and I ended up where I ended up. But I do think that Houston is a great place to live. And if I had to go back to Houston, I would not be mad. I would not be against it. I would not feel like I was going backwards. I wouldn't feel like I was going to something undesirable. I would definitely be able to navigate it a little better. There are things that I definitely miss about Houston. I miss my friends there. I miss the community. I do miss seeing those familiar LA faces in Houston because I knew a lot of people from LA that moved to Houston and they were like different people when they got there because they were able to just breathe. But yeah, there's lots of things that are great about Houston. And I think that if you are looking for something that feels energetic, feels like community, and if you want a much slower pace, maybe Houston's not for you because Houston does have a little bit of an energy about it where it feels a little bit chaotic. It's not the most, some people leave in LA, they want to just release. And I don't know if that's the biggest release. It's a little bit of a release, but not the biggest release. So I wouldn't go there if you really, really need to heal your energy on a much deeper level. You really, really need to reset your nervous system. I would not recommend Houston. But if you want to kind of keep the momentum, but you just want to do it in a way that's smarter financially, you want the community, you want to be able to navigate your life socially better, you want to be able to access more and not have so much red tape around it, Houston is definitely the place for you. I would recommend it 100 times. So like, comment, subscribe, follow me on my Instagram is deactivated, but it's Marcus Millions _ and then TikTok Marcus Millions _ and if you want skincare, go to lovethiskin.shop. And that's all. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like the video. If you don't agree with what I said, put it in the comments. Whatever y'all think, put it all in the comments because I'm going to talk to y'all and we're going to figure this out together if y'all should move to Houston or not. Good night.